Indiana Fever front office is about to do another roster overhaul for the 2026 WNBA season.
Okay, hold on to your seats, because the Indiana Fever just pulled off a move nobody saw coming. Seriously, not a single person. Just hours after their playoff run ended in disappointment, the team released 8 players in one fell swoop. One night, gone. Just like that. The reaction? Total chaos across the WNBA. Fans were stunned, insiders scrambled to make sense of it, and rival coaches were left completely blindsided. So, what's going on here? Is this some brilliant long-term strategy, a rebuild they've been quietly plotting for months? Or is it a panic-fueled decision, a desperate response to another season cut short and the frustration of falling short yet again?
I believe a lot of players will be exiting the building like Elvis, bruh. They gotta get the hell out of Dodge. Now, I'm telling you right now, I believe more than half of this team is gonna leave. I just got to keep it real. A lot of players is going to leave. I believe a few big names is probably going to leave. And more importantly, we need to get the ball back.
One thing is crystal clear. This has long outgrown basketball. Not even close. Behind the scenes, egos are clashing, front office power struggles are raging, and there's an urgent push to assemble a championship caliber roster around Caitlin Clark before the opportunity slips away. Now, as the dust begins to settle, the questions are unavoidable. Who's actually sticking around? Who could be on the way out next? And what do all these moves reveal about the Fever's next chapter? Because the truth behind these 8 roster cuts runs far deeper than anyone realized, and it all starts with what was really going on inside that organization.
No one predicted them to go this far, especially without Caitlin Clark. Now, granted, they was projected to be, final contenders, but that was with the roster that they had. Obviously, they had a whole nother roster, and like I keep telling you, momentum was the key.
When that final buzzer sounded, it marked more than just the end of their playoff hopes. It signaled the close of an entire era for the franchise. Inside the locker room, the tension was palpable, almost suffocating. No exaggeration. Players who had battled through injuries all season adjusted to constant rotation shifts, and weathered ongoing locker room drama suddenly realized their futures in Indiana were hanging by a thread. The coaching staff stayed quiet. The atmosphere was heavy, and whispers of something major circulated even before anyone left the arena. Sources close to the team confirmed that the decision to release 8 players wasn't made on a whim. This had been simmering for weeks behind closed doors. Rumors of serious clashes between the front office and head coach Stephanie White had been circulating for months. Disagreements over playing time, team chemistry, and strategy were all part of it. The Fever's late season collapse exposed every flaw. Mismanaged rotations, frustration bubbling between veterans and rookies, and a lack of cohesion. By the time elimination finally came, management had already made a firm decision about the next chapter.
Oh no, Stephanie White was running a whole lot of sets, bro. Whole lot of sets, whole lot of off-ball things, whole lot of things that Caitlin Clark really don't like to do, bro. Let's just be honest. Caitlin Clark is being the biggest trooper for this damn basketball team, but I think, just like I stated before,
the Fever had poured everything into Caitlin Clark, the league's brightest star and marketing sensation. But as the season dragged on, fans started asking the tough question: why wasn't the team actually built to maximize her strengths? Analysts were quick to notice that the offense had drifted away from the fast, free-flowing style that made Clark a college legend. Instead, it became rigid and predictable, full of forced sets, sluggish ball movement, and baffling lineups that just didn't work. Clark did everything she could to adjust. She tried to make it work, but by the final game, it was painfully clear. She was carrying too much of the load, struggling to fit into a system that never suited her in the first place. Then injuries started piling up. One by one, key players went down, exposing the team's lack of depth in the harshest way possible. Fingers were pointed everywhere. The front office blamed coaching decisions, while players questioned conditioning programs. As the losses stacked up, one thing became obvious. Something had to change, and it had to happen immediately. The Fever weren't about to waste another season underperforming while one of the most hyped players in basketball history sat on their roster. So, after the elimination, the wheels were already in motion. Agents were contacted, lockers cleared out, and 8 players were told they wouldn't be back. Just like that, overnight.
Granted, they was running this off ball and doing all these different experiments. Without momentum, I don't believe they would have made it as far. I believe they was playing meaningful basketball just due to the amount of injuries that the team took, and it kind of motivated them. They said it in their exit interview. The bench power pretty much motivated them and gave them the energy they need to prolong and get through a bunch of them long stretches in them series.
The move was ruthless, no question, but it sent a message loud and clear. The Fever were done with mediocrity. This wasn't just about surviving another season. It was about building a team that could actually win around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, one that could compete for championships. While some fans saw hope in a clean slate and a real rebuild, others saw a very different picture. Power struggles, mounting pressure, and control battles at the top. This wasn't just a roster shakeup, it was a statement. The Fever's front office had hit its breaking point, and if you think the cuts are over, think again. There are whispers about who could be next on the chopping block. One thing is undeniable. The aftermath of this purge makes it crystal clear. The Fever are finally committed to building around Caitlin Clark the way she was meant to be played.
Listen to what Caitlin Clark had to say years ago.
A huge reason why I came here, and that's what she preached to me in the recruiting process. You know, you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot. And I think a lot of my final schools kind of had that same look, but I think the read and react offense that we run was super important for myself. You know, you're making basketball reads. It's not a set. You're not being told what to do every single time you come down the floor. You're just playing the game you love.
For months, fans have been begging the Fever to let Caitlin Clark just play her game. No more overcomplicated sets. No more forcing her off the ball for no reason. What made her a generational talent at Iowa wasn't just her scoring, it was her freedom on the court, her natural rhythm, and the way she commanded the floor. When she played instinctively, the whole team fed off her energy, and everything clicked. But when that freedom was taken away, the team lost its spark. Inside the organization, voices had been pushing to bring back the same read and react offense that made Clark unstoppable in college. Even former Iowa coach Lisa Bluter's system was cited in meetings as the blueprint to fully unlock her talent. In that setup, Clark wasn't just a scorer. She was a creator, a conductor, the heartbeat of the offense. Now, with the roster thinning and more cap space opening up, this could finally be her team, entirely built around her. Sources inside the front office say the offseason will focus on acquiring players who fit that style. High IQ shooters, floor spacers, and teammates who anticipate Clark's reads, instead of waiting for rigid set plays. The goal is to replicate a supercharged Iowa-style offense that lets Clark dictate the tempo and keeps defenses guessing at every turn. Insiders joke that if you're not ready to shoot, cut, or move without the ball, don't even show up to training camp. Clark herself has been patient, but her frustration has been noticeable. In press conferences, she carefully chose her words, hinting at her desire for a more fluid offense. Fans remember her saying she just wanted to play basketball again, a subtle but powerful message about how suffocating the previous system had become. Behind that calm professionalism is a competitor tired of limits that didn't make sense. For Fever fans, this shift is bigger than strategy. It's about identity. The organization knows that when Clark is unleashed, everything changes. The arena energy, on-court chemistry, and how opponents have to defend them. This rebuild isn't just about cutting players who didn't fit. It's about cutting all the excuses that held the team back. Every aspect, from coaching philosophy to recruiting and rotations, is being realigned around the player who can single-handedly revitalize the WNBA's fan base. But success hinges on one crucial factor: whether Stephanie White and the coaching staff can adapt. The same coach who relied on rigid playbooks now faces the defining moment of her career. Either she evolves with Clark's game and embraces this new direction, or she risks becoming the next name on the exit list. The front office has made their move, sent their message. Now the question is, will the coach follow the vision or become the biggest obstacle standing in its way?
The style of play, and this is what I've been saying, we need to go back to the basics. And the basic is this style of play with Caitlin Clark, giving her the ball. Let her play freely, openly. Let her do what she do. No calling different sets going up the court. No doing none of this. Put players around Caitlin with that know how to obviously resets, know their responsibility, because Caitlin Clark said it hurts.
As the dust settled from the massive roster shakeup, one name kept coming up behind the scenes: head coach Stephanie White. Once praised for guiding a young, developing team, she now finds herself at the center of a growing storm of tension that everyone can feel. Insiders say her relationship with the front office has quietly deteriorated over time, and the reason is straightforward: her system doesn't fit the direction the Fever want to take. White's structured, play-by-play offense worked worked for a while, it had its moments. But with Caitlin Clark leading the team, it started to feel outdated. Fans noticed it, analysts pointed it out on TV, and now the front office has made one thing crystal clear: change is coming, whether she likes it or not. Supporters argue White was dealt a nearly impossible hand. Multiple injuries, constantly shifting rotations, and a roster still learning to play around a superstar made consistency almost impossible. Critics, however, say she refused to adapt, stubbornly clinging to a rigid system that stifled creativity and slowed the team down. Too often, the offense became painfully predictable. Endless pick and rolls and isolation plays that forced Clark to operate within strict boundaries instead of letting her instincts lead. For a player who thrives on reading the defense and improvising, it was a slow death. The breaking point reportedly came late in the season during heated internal meetings. The front office pushed for a freer offense centered on Clark's decision-making, while White defended her approach, arguing the team wasn't ready for that kind of freedom yet. That disagreement quietly became a power struggle, defining the Fever's final stretch of games. After the playoff elimination, sources say management saw the loss as proof that White's style couldn't get them over the hump when it mattered most. Players noticed the tension too. Some veterans sided with the coach, believing structure maintained order. Younger players, however, quietly expressed frustration, saying the offense felt robotic and micromanaged, like they were playing scared. Caitlin Clark, always professional, kept her public statements measured, but her on-court body language told a different story. Hesitation, quick glances at the bench, moments where her natural flow was replaced by second guessing. It was a player holding herself back. Now, with 8 players gone and the roster completely overhauled, the spotlight is fully on Stephanie White and her uncertain future. Whispers of a potential replacement are growing louder, and the front office has reportedly begun quietly evaluating coaches who could bring a modern offensive identity, one that mirrors Clark's college success and fully utilizes her strengths. Whether White gets another season may hinge entirely on her willingness to embrace this new approach. The message from management couldn't be clearer. This franchise belongs to Caitlin Clark. If the head coach, can't build around her the right way, the next announcement from Indiana might not be about a player leaving. It could very well be about Stephanie White packing her bags.
Bree Hall gone, Shea Petty gone, Natasha Howard gone, Bree Turner gone, Damster's gone. That's 5. Ariel Power, Sydney Colson. Hold on, Sydney Colson and Damster's 8. Yep. I believe they lose 8 players. This is just my prediction.
When the news broke that the Fever had cut 8 players in one night, social media exploded. Fans scrambled to make sense of it. Who stayed, who was gone, and why the team would make such a sweeping move all at once. Within hours, names started surfacing and the pattern became obvious. This wasn't random. This was a statement. Every player released represented a shift in philosophy, a clear message that the Fever were done settling for mediocrity. Reports indicate the cuts began with bench players who struggled to make consistent contributions. Players like Shea Petty and Darius Dantis were among the first to go. While they had shown flashes of talent, injuries and inconsistency plagued their seasons. The front office wanted reliability, not potential that might never materialize. Next came Natasha Howard, easily the biggest name on the list. Despite her championship experience, her contract demands and uneven play sealed her fate. She wanted top dollar, but the Fever weren't willing to invest in a player who didn't fit a system now built entirely around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Then came the real surprises, Lexi Hull and Sydney Coulson. Hull, a fan favorite and solid defensive anchor, was cut due to declining production, injury concerns, and salary considerations. Coulson's release sparked online debate. The veteran guard brought leadership and personality to the locker room, but the front office prioritized youth, speed, and versatility. Her 2 points per game simply didn't justify keeping her for another year. Ariel P's departure was more expected. She struggled to find her role all season, and her fit alongside Clark never fully clicked. The final names, Kadisha Stokes and Chloe Beebe, were developmental players the team still liked, but when reshaping a roster from the ground up, sentiment has to take a back seat to the bigger vision. But beyond the excitement, there's a sobering reality. These weren't just cuts on a spreadsheet. They were real players affected by a larger rebuild that demands total buy-in to a new identity. Each exit tells a story. Some will land with other teams quickly, others might not return to the league. It's a brutal truth of professional basketball, a reminder that loyalty works differently at this level. Some fans questioned whether the front office acted too quickly. 8 players in one massive sweep feels drastic, almost desperate, but to management it was necessary surgery, painful but essential for the future. By cutting out the old system entirely, they're betting on building something stronger from scratch. If it succeeds, this mass exodus could be remembered as the night the Indiana Fever finally became a serious franchise. If it fails, it may haunt them for years as a cautionary tale. With 8 players gone, the locker room dynamic has shifted overnight. For the first time since Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, the team unmistakably revolves around her. And it's not just about scoring. Caitlin Clark has become the true cornerstone of this franchise, the player around whom everything now revolves. The veterans who once dictated the pace, set the locker room hierarchy, and controlled the game's tempo are mostly gone. What remains is a roster designed to follow Clark's lead without hesitation. Kelsey Mitchell is one of the few remaining players with both experience and respect. After years of carrying this franchise through tough seasons, her loyalty and toughness are unquestioned. By the end of last season, her chemistry with Clark had noticeably improved, particularly when they shared the backcourt and began syncing their rhythms. Insiders say the front office sees Mitchell as an essential anchor, a veteran who can mentor the young core and adapt seamlessly to a faster, more fluid offense. She's expected to play a huge role in guiding the team through this transition. Then there's Aaliyah Boston, the quiet enforcer whose consistency and reliability make her untouchable during the roster overhaul. Together with Clark, she forms a rock-solid foundation for the team's future. The front office reportedly views them as the twin pillars of Indiana's new identity. Clark is the spark, Boston is the steady force. Nearly every roster move now is aimed at strengthening this partnership, surrounding them with shooters, screen setters, and defenders who can keep up with their pace. Not everyone is thrilled about this new hierarchy. Some remaining players worry that Clark's spotlight is overshadowing the team's identity, while others question whether management is placing too much pressure on one young star so early in her career. Clark's meteoric rise has turned the Fever from a struggling small market team into one of the league's biggest attractions overnight. And with that fame comes intense scrutiny. Every game, every comment, every decision she makes is magnified. Still, the front office's message is clear: this is Clark's team, period. Executives have reportedly held multiple meetings to ensure everyone, coaches, players, staff, is fully aligned with this vision. One source even called it a reset, not a rebuild. Anyone unwilling to fully buy in risks their place in Indiana. Already, there's a noticeable difference in practice. The energy is lighter, the pace faster, and the offense flows more naturally. Teammates are learning to read Clark's instincts and move accordingly, rather than waiting for drawn-out plays. Yes, it's messy at times, mistakes happen, but it's genuine progress. For the first time in years, there's a real belief that this team could become a legitimate contender. But power comes with pressure. Clark, White, and the front office are under more scrutiny than ever. One losing streak, one bad decision, and the fans who cheered the bold overhaul could turn on them. Whether this reset was done the right way will only become clear over the next season. Behind every shocking roster decision is another factor most fans overlook: money. The front office didn't just clear players for performance, they freed serious salary space. Releasing 8 contracts at once opened up millions in cap room, giving the Fever financial flexibility they haven't had in years. This move isn't just about fitting a system, it's about building a sustainable foundation in a league where every dollar counts. The Fever's payroll had become bloated with mid-tier contracts that delivered very little return. Veterans like Natasha Howard and Ariel Powers brought experience, sure, but they also came with hefty salaries. On paper, their stats looked solid, but neither player elevated the team to a championship level when it mattered most. Sources say the front office grew increasingly frustrated watching big chunks of salary tied up in inconsistent production. Letting these players go was harsh, no question, but it opened the door for Indiana to chase higher impact talent this offseason. More importantly, it allowed the team to acquire players who genuinely complement Caitlin Clark's game instead of working against it. Clark's presence has already transformed the Fever on and off the court. Ticket sales have skyrocketed, primetime TV slots have increased, and merchandise revenue has shattered franchise records. The front office understands that as long as Clark is on the roster, the Fever are a premium product, and that makes every decision even more critical. With zero margin for error, ownership wants to capitalize on this window before it closes. That's why the rebuild isn't just about strategy and athletic performance, it's financial too. Every contract, endorsement, and partnership moving forward has to fit perfectly with this vision. Kelly Crosscuff, one of the Fever's key executives, is reportedly driving this financial reset. Her approach is straightforward: surround Clark with low-cost, high-IQ players who can stretch the floor, hit open shots, and thrive in a modern offensive system without demanding max money. The goal is simple: sharpshooters who move without the ball, veterans willing to take team-friendly deals for a shot at winning, and young players hungry to prove themselves. Think Iowa-style basketball on steroids, but within a sustainable budget that doesn't handcuff the franchise for years. While other WNBA teams overspend chasing big names, Indiana is quietly building a foundation that is both stylistically and financially sound. A team built for long-term success rather than short-term hype. Not everyone is on board. Some agents have criticized the Fever for acting too aggressively, claiming that clearing players en masse sends a message that loyalty doesn't matter. But for the front office, loyalty alone doesn't win championships. Smart structure does. They're betting everything on disciplined spending and strategic roster building to turn the Fever into a perennial contender instead of a one-season wonder. These cuts weren't just about performance. They were about trimming costs and eliminating excuses. The message is loud and clear: if you don't deliver on the court or make sense financially, you won't be part of this new era. Everything in Indiana now runs through Caitlin Clark and the bottom line. The moment news broke that 8 players had been released in one night, social media went wild. Hashtags like the Fever Purge and Clark Era trended across X and Instagram. Opinions poured in from analysts, former players, and diehard fans who had endured the franchise's painful losing seasons. For Clark supporters, the purge was vindication. They argued the team had wasted too much time trying to force Clark into a system that never suited her. Let her cook became a rallying cry, echoing across forums, comment sections, and sports talk shows. Fans demanded a fast-paced, free-flowing offense, the style that made Clark a household name at Iowa. They wanted the deep logo threes, the fearless no-look passes, the energy that made her must-watch TV. Critics, however, saw it differently. Some accused the Fever of caving to star power and sponsor pressure instead of relying on solid basketball judgment. Others warned that building around a single player, even one as talented as Clark, is risky if chemistry doesn't work out. ESPN panels debated endlessly whether Indiana was building a dynasty or taking a desperate gamble. One headline summed it up perfectly: Indiana's rebuild, genius or panic. Inside the locker room, reactions were mixed. Teammates of those released described the mood as somber but expected. Many shared emotional goodbyes on social media, thanking teammates and fans while hinting at frustration behind the scenes. Meanwhile, younger players expressed excitement about the new direction, saying the team finally feels focused and united. The emotional mix of loss and hope was palpable. The media frenzy only intensified when fans noticed Clark liking posts supporting the roster changes. That small gesture set the internet ablaze, fueling speculation that she now holds full ownership of the team's direction. TV networks jumped on the story, debating how the move reshapes the WNBA's power dynamics, especially as the league pushes for expansion and higher ratings. Overnight, Indiana went from a struggling franchise to the most talked about team in the league. Love it or hate it, one thing is undeniable: this roster purge reignited fan interest in a way the league desperately needed. The Fever may have lost 8 players, but they've gained something far more valuable: relevance, intrigue, and the attention of the entire basketball world. Now, with 8 roster spots open, significant cap space, and the spotlight brighter than ever, the Indiana Fever are at a crossroads. This offseason could define the next decade of the franchise. The Fever's front office has one unmistakable mission: construct a team that not only perfectly complements Caitlin Clark's style, but also reestablishes Indiana as a true WNBA powerhouse. This isn't a squad fumbling to find its identity anymore. It's a franchise aggressively rewriting its entire future. Sources say the front office already has a bold plan underway. They're targeting sharpshooters who can thrive off Clark's vision, versatile wings who can defend without slowing the pace, and seasoned leaders who know how to perform under pressure. One executive described the ideal roster as fast, fearless, and fluid, and that's exactly what fans have been craving. The goal is clear: build a modern, instinct-driven offense centered around Clark, supported by Aaliyah Boston's dominance in the paint, and deliver a team next season that looks completely transformed, both stylistically and emotionally. The coaching fans have been demanding since Clark first arrived in Indiana. Of course, no rebuild is without risk. It takes time, egos must adjust, and expectations are sky high. Clark isn't just another player, she's the face of the WNBA's next generation. Every shot, every mistake, every loss will be scrutinized nationally. The front office knows patience will be thin and the criticism will be loud if things stumble early. Yet there's an undeniable electricity in Indiana right now. Fans are returning to arenas, merchandise is flying off the shelves, and the Fever have finally captured something intangible that can't be manufactured. Genuine anticipation and excitement. Pair Clark's star power with Boston's stability and a young, fast roster, and you have a team that could turn every game into must-watch television. This isn't just a rebuild, it's a full-blown revolution. The Fever have cleared out the old guard, reshaped their vision, and placed the entire future in the hands of their young superstar. If it works, this offseason purge will be remembered as the moment Indiana rose from the ashes. If it fails, it could serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of betting everything on one player. Either way, the next chapter of Fever basketball won't be subtle, it will be bold, unpredictable, and fully committed to one mission, making Caitlin Clark's era live up to all the hype and expectations. Releasing 8 players wasn't just a roster adjustment, it was a declaration. The Fever are done playing it safe. They're betting on a system designed to unlock Clark's full potential and reignite Indiana as a contender. Fans can feel it, the energy shift, the promise of something bigger. Whether this gamble becomes the franchise's defining moment or its greatest risk is still unknown. But one thing is certain, all eyes are on Indiana. From the boardroom to the court, every move now carries enormous weight. And as the new season approaches, one thing is clear, the Caitlin Clark era is officially here.